We are going to redo another tutorial that I had done before on how to begin a very basic website using divs. So let's get started. First, we need to make a new file. So we're going to be using Dreamweaver CC. This time you can use this or another text editor. It should be fine. So, all right, HTML, we create our file and it thinks about it for a little bit and okay, we're in. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to name our file. We're going to call it div test, just like the one before that apparently just couldn't really see what was going on. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do, we have to style some of these things. So the first we're going to use is style type CSS. Okay, then we're going to close that and we're going to make some space for this. So at the beginning, like I said before, I like to actually, to begin my websites, I actually do the style here, but then afterwards I actually create a separate file and attach it. But for all purposes, or for what we're doing today, this should work fine. So before we move forward, let's go ahead and save this. Here we go, and I already had a little folder set up for it. And we're just going to call it div test. We're going to save. Yes, replace it. That's fine. Okay, now we're in. Okay, so the very first thing is we are going to give the body a little background color. Okay, make it nice. All right, so background color. All right, and we are going to give it just like a nice little gray here. Okay, now this is something that we didn't do before in the other one, and it's to reset our style, our little web page. In order to do that, what we want to do is we want to make sure that the entire page starts out with 0 padding. So we put padding 0 pixels, and that there is no margins attached. So we go that 0 pixels as well. Okay, we save it, F5 on a Mac, and there is our gray background. All right, let's keep going. So first thing is the wrapper. Now, like I had said before, you can actually call these divs whatever you want, whatever funny name you could possibly think of. That's totally fine. That's going to work. So for the wrapper, we're going to make, this is what holds our entire website, right? So for this, we are going to give it a width. We're going to make this one a width of 800 pixels, and we are going to give it a height of 1,000 pixels. Okay. We obviously want this wrapper to sit nice and tight in the middle, and to do that, we give it a command called margin, and it's 0 auto. Okay, and that's gonna put our wrapper smack in the middle. Okay. Now let's also give it a background color so we can see that it's actually on the stage. Background color. And we're just giving it like a nice little white. There we go. All right. Now we're going to go to our body section. Okay. There we go. And we're going to call in our wrapper into action. So we do that by saying div ID, right? And it should be wrapper. All right. Now here's another little tip that I didn't do in my last video, and it's called to make notes. So in order to make notes, you open your bracket, exclamation point, dash dash, okay? And now you write whatever you want to write as a note. Now this is not going to be seen by the user. These are only seen from in the background. So here we're going to write something simple like end of main wrapper. Now these are super useful. We go dash dash and close the bracket. This is very useful, so when it gets really complex and it's a really big website, you're actually able to locate where these divs start and where they end. Okay, so the same as before, we are going to hit enter a whole bunch of times just to make sure that everything falls inside that wrapper. Okay, so let's save again, hit F5 on the Mac, and now here is our main wrapper right there. Okay, all right, let's keep going. All right, so in most websites, what is the first thing? That's right, the header. So let's take a look at the header. We're gonna call it in here, we're gonna give it a name called header. All right, open and close brackets. Now we're gonna give it a width, same as the wrapper, of 800 pixels, okay? And for the height, we are going to give it a height of 400 pixels, okay? Whoa, probably want to type in height though. 400 pixels, okay? Now, we want this to be in the center, but because we already have our wrapper that is in the center, what we need to do for the header to be flush over here to the left is a command called float, okay? Now, as I had mentioned in my previous video, this had given me a really hard time. I couldn't figure out how to do this, and this is really the purpose of this very basic tutorial, is to teach you guys how to be able to float these boxes so that they're not all over the place, but they fit all really nicely. Okay, so we're gonna float it left, and again, we're gonna give it a background color. Okay, let's see. How about like a blue? Let's give it like a light blue. Okay, so we save it, F5, and now we're gonna go back down here to our body, and we're gonna call in our header. So div ID, header, there it is. Okay, and we close that div, and once again, we're gonna do a little annotation here, end of header, dash dash, and we close that. Hit enter. Okay, now we're gonna build a whole bunch of things inside our header here. So now we got our header and we have our wrapper. So just how I had said before, the whole thing with the divs is one big box, okay, and then a smaller box inside, and then inside this box we're gonna put more boxes, okay? And that's really how you build up the basic layout for a website. Okay, so let's keep going here. Now, let's say that we want to put in a logo, right? Okay, so what we want to do is make a space here, and that's going to be for a logo. So let's call it logo. Okay, so our logo is going to be a width of 400 pixels, okay, which is half this blue box right here, right? And we're going to give it a height of 400 pixels as well. Okay, we're gonna float it left, right? Float it left, and we're gonna give it a background just so you know where it sits on the stage. And we're gonna use a nice little yellow here. Okay, so now let's go back down to our body and let's call in our, let's save, F5, and let's call in our logo. There it is. Okay, let's close the brackets. Whoa, there it is. Okay, and then we close that. Hit F5, and this would be the space per se of our logo. Okay, now let's add a couple more boxes on this end. What we're gonna try and do, as we did before, is that here is just one big yellow box, right? So now what we're gonna do is divide this blue one into two. So we're gonna set one up here and one down here. All right, so let's see how that is done. Let's call it header box. So header box 1. You see, we can call them whatever we'd like. My suggestion is that you do call it something that makes sense, so that when you go back into it, it will make sense, and you'll know what you're talking about. So here, we're gonna give it a width of 400, and we're gonna give it a height of only 200 pixels, okay, because we wanna make two. We're gonna float it left again. There you go, float left, and we're gonna give it a background color. Alrighty. Now the background color, let's use this aqua. Okay. We save it, have it 5. We go down here, and now we're gonna call this our first header box into action. So div ID, header box 1, close brackets, and we close our div. We save it, F5 on the Mac, and boom, there it is, right here. Okay. All right, so now we have just one more box to go, and we're gonna call it header box number 2. So header box 2, brackets. We're going to give it a width of 400 pixels. We're going to give it a height of 200 pixels. We're going to float it left, the same thing. We'll float. We're going to float it left. And we're going to give it a background color once again. Now for this one, let's see, let's use green. Green is kind of hideous, so yay. All right, let's do that. Okay, now before I proceed, I did this in my other video tutorial, and it was to show you guys what happens when your math doesn't add up, right? So we have a box that is 400 here, right, which gives us 400 pixels from this end to this end, right, that we can use. Now, if we go beyond those pixels, something's gonna happen, right? So let's go width, let's go 450 width, okay? We go down here to our body, and we're gonna call in our div header box, right? Our second header box number 2, and we close that div. We're gonna save, and when we hit F5, we're gonna see that our green box that we just made now is outside our target area, right? So because we went too big, right, it doesn't fit in this space anymore, okay? So we really need to make sure that our math adds up, okay? So let's go back here and make it the 400 it was supposed to be. We save, F5 on the Mac, and boom. Now our box is where it's meant to be, okay? All right. So now this is the basic architecture on how to begin to build your website. Okay, so now we still have some space here, right? So let's utilize some of that space. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have a section over here underneath the yellow box. We're gonna make a section where, let's say we're gonna put some ads or something like that, okay? Something fun. So let's call it ads box. Why not? Okay. All right. So we're gonna use the amount of space that we have to work with is 800 pixels, right? So what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna go with a width of, let's say, 200 pixels for the ads. Our height that we have available to us is 600 pixels, okay? Because all our site is 1,000, and we used 400, so we have 600, right? Okay, so we're gonna use height, and again, in order for all these boxes to stack up one against the other, we need to use that command, that magical command that I couldn't find, which is float left. Okay, and let's give it a funky background color. Okay, background color, and let's do like this kind of orange one. Okay, we save, we refresh, and let's go down here. We get div ID, and we call in our ads box. Okay, we save, hit F5, and here now is our little section where we can put little ads. Now, if you wanted to add boxes inside this orange box, you would follow the same steps like we did with the yellow and the green one over up here. Okay, it's the same steps. You would just add your divs inside this orange one. Okay, So let's do the last one here. All right, and we're gonna call that content. Okay. So width. Now how much width do we have left? We have 200. The width is 800 pixels, so we have 600 pixels available, right? There we go, height. Do the same 600 pixels. Again, we're gonna float it left. Float left. And we're gonna give it another funky background color. Okay. And for this one, let's see what color. It's like a pinkish red. Okay, save, refresh. Now we go down here and we hit div ID content. Okay, and we close our div. Hit save, refresh, and there is our big ginormous box. Okay. Now let me take this one a little further than I did last time. So let's say that we wanted to add content in our content box. Let's say there's usually a ton of text, right? So my good practice is that if I'm going to be putting things inside a div, I want to call them out so that later I know where they end. So I'm going to make another note here that says end of content text, and we close that annotation. Okay, so now in our content we're just going to start typing something. So how about, hello, this is my first website attempt and it's going great. Okay, we save, we hit F5, and voila, there it is. Okay, there's the text. So in this particular case, we didn't add under the box, but we actually added content, okay, to this box. In one of my next tutorials is actually how to work with padding. So I'll teach you guys, stay tuned. I will teach you some of that soon. Now the last thing that I want to teach you guys is, I know you guys have seen these headers and footers that go all the way across your screen, and it doesn't matter how much you make it big or you make it small, it follows, it's like an accordion, right? And it follows back and forth. Well, that's one we can do very simply with some really cool commands. So here, let's call this footer, right? So let's call the footer in, all right? Now for the width, and here's something key, okay? This footer is not actually gonna be inside our wrapper, okay? And I'll show you guys in a minute what I mean. So because it's not in our wrapper, right? It's just gonna flow outside of it. So for the width, we're gonna go 100%, okay? For the height, we can give it whatever height we want. Let's say we want 200 pixels, okay? Now for the margin, what we're not gonna give it any margin or padding. What we're gonna do is that we're gonna give it a command called clear and both. Okay, we're going to save that, and now we're going to here we have our little annotations. You see how they come in handy? So this is the end of the text, this is the end of the header, and here's the end of the main wrapper. So let's take away some of these enters that we put up here. Okay, like that, make it nice and tight. And now, because this is the end of the wrapper, right, which is that huge box that we did at the beginning, we want to set our footer down here, okay, so that's not constrained by the wrapper. All right, so let's go down here and let's go div ID footer. Okay, oops, I hope you guys caught it. We forgot something major, and we can give it a background color. So we go back, background color, and let's give it actually black. I actually like black. Okay, so let's give it a black one. We save, we hit F5, and now you see our black box is going all the way across, okay? And it's not restricted anymore by our wrapper. So now let's check this in Firefox and see how it looks. Let's see what we did. Boom, there it is. Got your yellow box, aqua box, green box, got your content box, your little ads box, and you have a footer that goes all the way across your screen, back and forth with you. Okay? All right, well, I hope you guys really enjoyed the tutorial. I enjoyed doing it again. Leave all your comments, questions, anything that I can help with, or if something's not clear, let me know. And also, if you want the source files so you can see it, just shoot me an email on YouTube, and I will be more than happy to get that to you. So once again, my name is Edwin, BazikGeraldo, and I will see you guys later.